Hello, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more people to attend the webinar. Hopefully we'll get started in the next 3 to 4 minutes. If you don't mind waiting a bit longer, we should get started soon. If you've just joined, we've just got a few more, waiting for a few more people to join the call, but we should get started very shortly. Just like to do a quick sound check, if you don't mind. If everyone could just type into the chat box just to confirm that you can hear me well and clearly. Great, thank you. Well, I think we've got everybody on board now. I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Gabrielle Avery. I am the IBM and Red Hat product manager at Ingram Micro. We have a fantastic presentation for you today on Red Hat OpenShift. Chana Dias, who is our IBM and Red Hat architect at Ingram Micro, will be doing the presentation for us. I think it will be very interesting, so hopefully you will all stay until the end. I'd also like to introduce our Red Hat team, Dan. He's going to say a few words and then he's going to pass over to Chana, who will do the actual presentation. Over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Gabrielle, and thanks, Ingram team. Really great to be here today, and I hope that you do enjoy the webinar today on the introduction to Red Hat OpenShift and the OpenShift platform. My name is Daniel Tagg. I am the distribution account manager for ANZ. I work with the Ingram Micro account quite closely. Today in the office with me is my solution architect that's aligned with the account as well, Anish Thomas.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Anish Thomas. I'm part of ecosystem solutions architect team. I'm here to support Ingram Micro. I predominantly work in the channel space, work with partners and distributors. Thank you.
Fantastic. We look forward to a great session today, and we'll throw back to Chana, our master of ceremonies, mate.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining for this webinar today. I'm going to talk about OpenShift. A lot of people heard, but may not know actually what is OpenShift is. So I'm not going to go into a technical deep dive session. This is very overview and how Red Hat and Ingram help you out get your OpenShift journey. And Dan said, and Gabriel said, my name is Chana Dias, and I'm the solution architect for IBM and Red Hat. I've been in the industry for quite a long time. To put it in simple terms, when I started my career as a delivery field engineer, the equipment or this subsystem I serviced and installed was a little bit bigger than a bar fridge, held only 20 megabytes. Today we are holding over 100 terabytes on our palm. So that's the journey I've gone through. So gone through a long journey with different technology, different architecture solutions. The thing that kept me going was changing our technology landscape and having that enthusiasm to learn new technologies and adapting to the environment. So let's go ahead. So why Ingram and Red Hat? What we bring together is your open source journey, starting your open source journey. So just to give a brief idea of Ingram Micro, these numbers are our global numbers. We are about $49 billion organization at the moment, having about 35,000 associates globally. So we represent all the top tier vendors in the world, and not every geography we represent every vendor, but in most of the countries we represent all top tier technology vendors. So that's how big we are. We are one-stop shop when it comes to technology solution for our partners. So we are there to help for your journey in every aspect of your technology, whether infrastructure or software driven. Who's Red Hat? The world's leading or largest provider of open source enterprise solutions. So more than 90% of the Fortune 500 companies use Red Hat technologies in either any form or factor. And currently, they're the first $3 billion open source software organization in the world. So what is open source? So open source is community-driven software projects. So there are millions of these projects currently running in the world, but these are contributed by different groups, different developers, depending on the requirements put by the communities. Now, what organizations like Red Hat does, they contribute to these upstream projects. They integrate all these platforms and stabilize the products or solution, provide ongoing maintenance and support throughout the life cycle of the software or the product. Now, end users, they don't pay a license for this software. They only pay a subscription. Subscription includes software maintenance and ongoing support throughout the life cycle of the product. So going forward, I will to save some bandwidth, I'll switch off my camera, but all right, let's go. So that is the open source model. So what are these open source models? So if you see on this slide, there are plenty of community-driven open source projects which derive so many Red Hat solutions. So if you look at on the left-hand side, the Red Hat Enterprise Linux, it derived from Fedora community project, Linux project. In the virtualization product, Red Hat virtualization is derived from Overt project. Then automation product, Ansible. Ansible came from open source product, Ansible. These are still ongoing and continuing, and communities contribute to development of the product, but Red Hat, they contribute and stabilize, provide all the necessary support, compatibility with the multiple infrastructure organizations, whether it's HP, IBM, Red Hat, IBA, Dell EMC, whatever. All the compatibility between different hardware vendors and software vendors, and provide that support, and that is included in the subscription. So where does Ingram Micro, Red Hat, other than these two, because we carry so many other vendors, we represent so many other vendors, we can provide so many solutions on top of other hardware vendor solution. Especially my colleagues on this call, the Nutanix, as a Nutanix vendor, we have a solution going on Nutanix and Red Hat on OpenShift. So likewise, with other vendors we represent, we can put together a comprehensive solution, not just Red Hat. We can cater a solution that meets your end users' business requirements. And also we got a technical lab. There's a separate slide on that. I'll show what capabilities available on that. And we also have a dedicated coding team based in Indonesia. Now, what this coding team does, especially when it comes to Ansible, some of the automation requirements that requires coding, which is not available a repository like GitHub, we can do that coding for your end users, obviously for a nominal fee. We have that capability and support capability available for our partners. So it's, as I said before, it's a one-stop shop for our partners to deliver all these services in the open source journey or starting off any other open source platform using Red Hat. So let's look at what is OpenShift. So who's interested in OpenShift? So for developers, generally developing of an application lifecycle takes quite a long time in general terms in older days. You can acquire infrastructure, get the code done, run it on a test platform, then put it to production after going through multiple testing processes and put it into production. So it takes roughly about, depending on the application, 3 to 6 months. With OpenShift, because of the simplicity of deploying the application, development and deploying the application is quite short period of time. They can build applications on the go and do modifications on the go and deploy them as soon as they are ready to deploy. Then that makes IT operations task very easy. They don't need to wait for infrastructure to check the application, test the application, then deploy. So many processes they need to go through. It streamlines the deployment process and support process. And on top of that, the business leaders, they are so happy because they can bring to the market their application quite fast. They can reap the benefits of bringing the dollars in at a shorter life cycle. So that helps them to get into the market faster, get the product into the market faster, and get reap the benefits faster in the life cycle. If they're in a competitive environment, they can be on top of their product offering all the time. So it's an ongoing process, and all the communities involved in a business environment using IT, the containers or OpenShift gives the maximum advantage get to that point. So containers, let me go through these slides. Okay, so on this slide, so going back in time, we had traditional deployment. We had hardware, server, storage, connected backend or storage on the server. Then you install a operating system. Then you have multiple applications. This is talking about maybe 25, 30 years ago. And then we had the virtual development environment, especially VMware, Red Hat KVM, other virtualization platforms, Hyper-V. So then came hardware, operating system, then sits the hypervisor, and then you have multiple virtual machines, but each running an operating system on its own. So need to take care of operating system, securing the operating system, patching all these virtual machines, plus the operating system underneath. So it's quite a bit of work ongoing. And came the container development. And by the way, containers is not new. The Linux variants or Linux kernels from 2008 had containers as C groups or container groups, and that's where the companies like container companies like Docker, Cloud Foundry, or Rocket spun out. So it's not new. It's been there quite a while, but it has come a long way since container groups. So how the container works? So you have the hardware platform, whether it is on-site or on a cloud environment. You have the operating system, and then have the container runtime. And each container just have only the binaries and libraries that it needs to run that container. So it shares the container runtime across all the containers on that container cluster. So that makes it easy to secure, patch, and develop applications and deploy applications at a faster pace. Makes the developers' life very easy. They can spun out a container, develop the application, test the application, and they can hand over to IT operations to deploy, and then either keep the container or they can get rid of the container. So it makes the whole life cycle very, very fast, very, very short period of time of developing and deploying applications. And the other biggest advantage, because it's not carrying any operating system along with it, it just contains only the binaries. Portability is the biggest advantage applications develop in a container. So you can take the same container and the application from the container and move it to a cloud environment, any cloud environment, and bring it back. So in old days, you can't do that. You have to compile the application again on a particular operating system environment, whether it is running on Unix, Linux, or Windows environment. You can't port applications straight away. And in a container environment, the advantage is it is not relying on underlying operating systems, just has those binaries. Binaries are common across most of the operating systems, and it can port easily for any platform, making it so easy to move applications around. Now, can you have your virtualized environment and container environment together? Absolutely, you can. So not every application can be containerized. It might require some modifications to move it to a container environment, but today's cloud native applications are pretty much most of the developers are today using application development using DevOps languages, DevOps coding, and it's so easy to port these containers across multiple environments, hybrid on a hybrid cloud environment. That's the biggest help developers got using containers. So again, a visual graphical slide to show what's the difference between a virtual machine and a container. So as I mentioned before, so every VM has its operating system dependent kernel, whereas on the container, that's a shared kernel, only the binaries are included in the container. So as I said, what are the benefits of a containerization? Portability, as I said before, portability. It can be port everywhere, anywhere, on-site environment to a hybrid cloud environment and multiple cloud platforms. And agility. Developers can use it to develop in on-site and deploy it in a cloud environment. The speed, how fast they can move these applications between different environments when the need comes. Fault isolation, easy to isolate faults because you are only concentrating on application, not underlying operating system issues or anything. It is just the application. So fault isolation becomes much more faster. Because it is light, the container deployment are efficient, whether it is on an application environment or backend database environment. And the security. Every container has its own security, and that can be managed going into using the container orchestration. or Kubernetes. You might have heard Kubernetes. So what is Kubernetes? So when you start deploying, as those days when you start organization, I remember about 25 years ago, organizations start using, when it was new, the virtualization, they started deploying 5, 10 virtual machines, but soon it became so easy to deploy a server. They ran out of infrastructure space because nobody knew, whenever they want a server, they spun out a new virtual machine. So managing it was a issue. They started rolling out of so many virtual machines across the environment. What Kubernetes brings into the table is the orchestration, load balancing, and automation of rolling out containers and rolling back them. Then a self-healing, or always checking the health of the container, whether it is responding, whether it is working, operating properly, make sure application is up and running. There is not, there are self-healing mechanisms built into Kubernetes. And the configuration management. So some of the containers has each container has its own configuration, but Kubernetes manages all those configuration for each container and keep it in database and make sure that they are aligned with all those stored configuration environments. So Kubernetes is a project started by Google, but it was embraced by the container community because it was so easy to manage, rather than when you have 1,000 odd containers, managing them is a nightmare. So Kubernetes was well embraced by the community, a way of orchestrating and managing and load balancing the container environments. So in this, what it shows is what Kubernetes provides. From install to operate, every aspect in IT operation environment, after deploying an application or on a container, how amount of work Kubernetes done, taking most of the load away from IT operation staff so that they can do other better things in their landscape. So from installation of templating, validation, OS setups, hardening from security point of view, based on the policies you set in Kubernetes platform, disaster recovery, patch upgrades, security patch upgrades, app patch upgrades, multi-tenant environments, managing entire cluster environment. So it gives a massive management capability for container environment. Now,
yeah. Sorry, this is Anish here. Hello, everyone. Just to add what Chana has mentioned, so if you have to deploy a Kubernetes environment by yourself, these are all the steps you have to do, like whether you have to start from scratch. That means you have to start from OS setup, as Chana mentioned, whether it's a deployment stage, whether it's monitoring, networking, storage related changes. And when you have to run this in a production environment, you have to harden it, right? So that means you have to do security enhancements. That means you have to have monitoring, alerting setup. There are a lot of things, a lot of work goes into setting up a Kubernetes environment in a right way. So these are all the challenges which you face, and probably Chana can give you more details around how it can be made, how we can set up a Kubernetes in an easier way using OpenShift in the next slides.
Yeah, so this is as Anish mentioned. So if we take a car analogy, if we want to make our own car and getting all the components that requires to build our own car and get it certified by the relevant authorities, it's a nightmare. So you're finding all the engine, the car parts, putting it together, or having a assembled car from a known entity, whether it is a Mercedes or a Kia. It's validated. We know it is. We can take it on the freeway at nominated speeds without any issues. And it comes with all the necessary support and throughout the lifetime of the car, the servicing, especially nowadays patches software updates on the car. So this is what OpenShift platform brings in. So it is, of course, based on Red Hat CoreOS, Kubernetes included, then OpenShift cluster services. So it's a component that manages multiple infrastructure underneath, and the monitoring of the environment, the container environment, development tools, loggings, and all the metrics along with that. And then, depending on your requirement, you can move into the full service where Red Hat takes the support and operations. So managed OpenShift platform in the cloud. So this can be deployed in a hybrid environment. It need not to be only cloud environment. It can be on-prem and a cloud of your choice or multiple cloud of your choice. Deployment, the support. So Anish, you want anything to say here?
Yeah, just to add to that what you have mentioned, like if you are deploying OpenShift, you have options where you want to deploy, right? So whether you want to deploy it on premises, on a virtual environment, whether you want to deploy it on a private cloud or a private cloud. We support OpenShift on multiple cloud providers. Like we have managed services from AWS, Azure, Google, IBM Cloud, etc. So the main difference between the OpenShift and the managed OpenShift is that OpenShift, you can think of it as a readily built car, which you are ready to drive, but you have to do the maintenance. That means the regular maintenance. That means you are managing the infrastructure. But if you don't want to manage the infrastructure, then the option is to go for a managed OpenShift. That means you don't need to worry about the underlying infrastructure, patching, upgrades, etc. So the service providers will take care of that particular aspect for you. So as an end user, you just need to bring in your application, deploy your applications, and run that applications. So it essentially takes away a lot of the work which you have to do from a platform perspective, and you can just focus on your applications. So it essentially enables you to go like a lesser time to market. That means you can develop applications faster and you can go to market faster.
To also add to that as well, part of the reason why Ingram is hosting this call is they are a distributor for Red Hat, but also a lot of the other flavors in the managed OpenShift platform world as well. They are partners with AWS and Azure and IBM, and so can offer you those products. For example, Arrow on Microsoft Azure, or ROSA, ROSA on AWS. They're some of the popular platforms that partners take in terms of managed OpenShift, and they're all available through Ingram as well.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Anish. So let's go into next. So let's look at what is OpenShift subscription. So when you subscribe for OpenShift subscription, it is what is included in the subscription is all these. And so Kubernetes engine at the bottom, the Red Hat OpenShift CoreOS, the Kubernetes, the cluster services, the platform services, and the cluster management, multi-cluster management. These are all included in the subscription, whether to run it on a physical environment, on a virtual environment, a private cloud, or a public cloud, or at the edge. Now, as you know, you can run OpenShift in with the latest version. It is supported on VMware as well. So you can run it on a virtual environment.
Chana, just to add to that, if you go back to the previous slide, the whole value proposition of OpenShift is that whether you are from operations team or you're from development team, you get the same experience everywhere. Whether you are on premises, private cloud or public cloud, you get the same experience. So you will use the same interface, you will get to use the same tooling. So you don't need to learn about say what this cloud provider is providing or what the other cloud provider is providing. So you don't need to worry about that. So you get the same experience. And if your developer are very familiar with certain set of tools, they can use those existing tools with OpenShift. So there is very limited or very less learning curve as well. And on the top layer, you can see multi-cluster management. What that does is if you have multiple Kubernetes cluster, whether it can be EKS, OpenShift, AKS, etc., you can manage all of those clusters from a single, like a console. You will have a single pane of glass view across the cluster so that you can enforce policy compliance, and you can also push configuration across the clusters. Over to you, Chintan.
That's correct. That's very important. In today's world, we have less time to learn a lot of things. But if you experience the same interface around all different environments, whether it is a physical cloud or virtual or any other environment, if it is the same pane of glass, it's easy to manage, and you don't need. It saves time from IT operations point of view. And the developers, even for developers, they don't have to learn different environments going into. If it's the same thing, same tools, if they can use, it cut down the time developing and testing. So it's one. Thanks, Anish. That's one major key element in OpenShift, the platform. So what it provides, so from different communities in the IT environment, it's ready for operators. You can automate the processes, reduce complexity, and then developers, they can code faster, they can test faster. They don't need to wait for someone to provide them required resources. They can spun a container, develop their application, and then test and hand over to teams to deploy. So it cuts down the time to deploy application quite significantly. And then, as I said before, going into market early, faster, get the product to the market faster, brings dollars into the organization faster. So it's a complete circle of events happening at a faster pace. And then all these vendors, other vendors in the environment, the space, in our technology space today, they're all making their products or technologies OpenShift friendly, or they include code that they can integrate their products into OpenShift environments. If you take IBM or the storage, now you can directly connect into OpenShift environment. The storage software includes the code necessary to connect or integrate into OpenShift environment. Carsten is a VM backup software, mainly for containers or OpenShift environment to for backup and recovery purposes. In the networking space, Cisco security, Curator, IBM logging mechanism provides APIs built in now, APIs to OpenShift environment. So as I spoke about before, Nutanix, we have my colleagues, if there are any Nutanix partners on the call, we have joined OpenShift on Nutanix offering going on at the moment. You can get in touch with our Nutanix folks. As mentioned, all vendors, whether it is hardware or infrastructure based, or the software vendors, they all provide the APIs that requires seamlessly integrate into OpenShift environments. And again, it's regardless of the platform, whether it is physical or virtual or cloud environments or the edge, the experience is same. And then there's more and more verticals in the market, in the globe, are adopting containers because they get the time it takes to take applications to the market, take applications into their organizations are much faster. So these are only few areas, but there are so many other verticals. There's a massive embrace and deployment of container OpenShift technology or platform in the market today. So there's quite a few. I summarize only a few. There are quite a few in this area. There are more than, as I say, more than 2,000 organizations worldwide. Not only platforms here, now payment gateway platforms, capital markets, core banking like ANZ, NAB. They all use container technologies because they can take the applications faster to the market, especially the front ends like the mobile banking we do today. And then people like Telstra, mobile service providers, Telstra or T-Mobile, Vodafone, they're all deploying container-based solutions because it is faster to develop and deploy applications. Now, what help is available from Red Hat for migration? As I said, not every application straight away can port into a container-based environment, but there are tools available, migration toolkit, especially for Java-based applications to make sure that they are container ready. And this tool is free. It will check if the code is ready, what changes are required, and what risks are there in the existing code. And then if need any modifications to be done, and then deploy it on a container-based solution. So this toolkit is free. Developers can easily download it from Red Hat partner web. Only need a Red Hat partner access to the site, and they can play with the migration toolkit. And other than that, what other help is available to get started? So there are not for resale subscriptions available to test, to do a pilot sites, and this can be deployed in custom environments or in-house on your partner engineers, SCs, and on-site development engineers get their hands dirty. How it is set up, what the subscriptions allows you to do that. And then there is an OpenShift level up program. Dan, are you able to shed more light on the OpenShift level up program?
Absolutely, happy to talk to this one quickly. So everybody loves free stuff, and we like to support that, and we like to support where there's opportunities. So with the OpenShift level up program at Red Hat, if you're an eligible partner, and you need to reach out to Channa at the Ingram team to determine the eligibility, but if you're an eligible partner, you are entitled to basically claim and download the OpenShift container platform up to 10 cores for basically a cost-free subscription for 12 months. Now that is enough to basically get you up and running and to start utilizing and seeing whether OpenShift will work for you and in your environment. And we're very happy to entertain those requests. So we ask you to reach out to Channa and Gabriel and the Ingram team if you're interested in taking this on. As part of that, the subscription that is offered is either the on-prem 10 core, or I believe it's also, there's a subscription that will be allowed to be run in the public cloud, and I think it's AWS.
Yeah, it's you can run up to 10 cores on AWS, and you can test your applications on public cloud as well.
So if you're interested, please reach out to the Ingram team, and we'll help you to step through that process.
So there's so much support available, and also the training portal. There's a massive amount of trainings available, including free instructor-led courses online. I'll share those for sales folks, just as if you're starting as a sales associate or system engineers and the deployment engineers. There are multiple courses available. I have next slides coming up. What are the courses available? And at the end of the day, we will share this presentation. You can look at the courses available and follow those paths. And all these courses are free. Only thing you need a account set up for your organization and for yourself attached to that organization to access all these free trainings. And the technical support is available for evals or pilot environment, POC environment during business hours. And also, as I mentioned, Ingram has a technology experience center. It is a platform to test or get your hands dirty, or us to provide demonstrations along with you to your end customers or for yourselves. So get in touch with me. We have different platforms available on our site. This platform is hosted in our Singapore center, but we have direct access to it. We can get you access to get your hand dirty, see how technology works. Not only OpenShift, we have other platforms. I'll have a slide on that. I'll bring it up. So these are the trainings that is available for sales specialists. If you're starting as a sales specialist, there are different lines of trainings you can undertake. So from 3 hours to 16 hours if you want to upskill your knowledge on OpenShift. Not only OpenShift, there are thousands of other trainings available on different platforms. If you are keen, let me know which areas you want to develop your skills. I'll share the details with you. These are for the pre-sales and sales engineer folks, all the trainings they can undertake, from starting from simple specialists on container platform, just understanding a deep understanding from technical point of view how OpenShift works and what are the components and how everything bound together, and all the way up to OpenShift on AWS or ROSA. And then for the delivery guys, the guys who really get their hands dirty on site, setting this up, deploying, and taking their customers through the journey. So the trainings are available. All the trainings that instructor led is highlighted on a purple square. So these courses are really, I've gone through a few of them. So they're very easy to follow. It's very interactive, even though it is online based. So this is our tech solution roadmap, our technology solution lab in platform, or rather a platform in Singapore. So we started with Ansible, which is the automation product from Red Hat, where you can automate out 99% of the IT operations in an environment, from application delivery to virtual machine container deployment. There's so much you can do with Ansible. So we deployed Ansible in Q1. Then we did OpenShift with Carsten, which is the backup solution, VM backup solution. And then the second half of this year, we'll have the orchestration and the migration toolkit ready. But at present, we have OpenShift ready on our platform. You can play around, see how it works, how you can deploy containers, or if you want us to provide a demonstration to your end customers, happy to do that. Just get in touch with me. I'll share my contact details in the next slide. So I would like to introduce here Shibon, who's Business Development Manager. Shibon, are you on the call? I think Shibon is not on the call, but get in touch with either myself or Shibon to schedule a demo, either yourself as a partner or together we can provide a demonstration to your end customer, either not any of the, especially on Ansible and OpenShift. And we also can provide you opportunity to access the platform and get your hands dirty and see how both these environments work. And with that, I will open for any questions and answers if you have. And let me put on my camera.
If you do have any questions, please quickly just drop them into the chat. I'm not sure whether audio is working, but we'll certainly be able to see those, the moderators. One thing I'll quickly touch on, just on the previous slide, if you can pull that back up again, Channa. We're really keen to see partners reaching out to Ingram to take advantage of their amazing Technology Experience Center, the TEC. We love the fact that Red Hat features there as one of the vendors that are involved, but Ingram have a host of other vendors that are in together, and they're showcasing you how all of the technologies intermix. We absolutely love that. We are backing this, and we think it's a sensational idea. So we'd love to see more partners reach out to Ingram to see this and showcase how the vendors complement each other in the solutions and how typical day-to-day use cases are easily answered and covered with those technologies. Also a reminder as well, we are very keen to steer you towards that because you're able to actually invite your end users on as well. We know that Ingram will host a session for you and your end users in a sheltered environment and basically help you to get a sale across the line. So very keen to back this initiative. Please reach out to Channa and to Siobhan. It's a great idea and it showcases the technology very well.
Great. I know. So there's no questions so far. So if there's no questions, anyway, you got my contact details here and Siobhan's. If you have any query, feel free to drop me an email. We'll get back to you with answers to your queries. Or if you come across any opportunity for any of your end users, talk about containers and not knowing what to do, which path to take, and what is OpenShift, just give us a ring, get us engaged, and we will more than happy to help you out and your customers. So I don't think we have any more questions, and with that, let's wrap up. And thanks all of you. Thanks to the panel, Anish, Dan, and Gabriel. Thanks for the opportunity and thanks for the session and all the help. And thanks you all for joining. And have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Dana, just before you go, I think there is literally just a question that's popped up. Is there a playbook to engage trial? Could we just get a confirmation? Is there a playbook to engage trial?
Yes. Yes. I think from John Gao from yes, John.
John, I'm not quite sure if you're asking about the Ansible playbooks, which are another Red Hat.
I think Ansible playbook.
But if you are interested in a trial, I definitely suggest you reach out to Channa and Siobhan, and we will help you and support you through that one if you're very interested to try out OpenShift and or any of the other Red Hat technologies as well.
All right, okay. Sales playbook. Of course, yes.
We can absolutely get that out to you. We'll get Siobhan to reach out to you. Fantastic. Thank you, John.
My fat fingers. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Bye.